We have breaking news. A police officer in Aurora killed in the line of duty, and it happened outside a school. Mike Thomas's death was absolutely one of the worst things that ever happened in the history of our department. And the notion that it might have been preventable is just deeply, deeply troubling.
Aurora detective Mike Thomas was murdered by Brian Washington, a convicted felon who obtained a stolen gun. Roger Harris was gunned down in this Aurora parking lot.
He had a drug problem, but he wouldn't hurt nobody.
He was 36 years old.
They shot him from the back. They kept emptying that gun on my son so many times.
Roger Harris was murdered by Kervin Rogers, who was a convicted felon with a gun. He killed 2 other persons as well. Harris and Detective Thomas are 2 of thousands across the country who are shot every year by felons with guns. So where do they get them? We
traced it back to a gun owner in Idaho who told us he didn't realize the gun was missing. He speculated that a relative might have stolen it from him, from his collection, and he simply didn't know about it.
The gun that killed Roger Harris was local.
That gun was purchased in the Denver area in 07, reported stolen in 08 in Westminster, and ended up in the hands of Kervin Rogers, sometime after that.
Our investigation has found that in the past 3 years, there have been more than 1,000 convictions by state courts in Colorado for felons possessing firearms. And in federal district court, where there are tougher sentences and no parole, there have been more than 100 such convictions in the past year. So where did the guns come from?
I think our cases reflect there are at least 3 main buckets of sources. One is, frankly, theft. Burglaries of houses, burglaries of firearms dealers. That's a significant issue.
John Walsh is the U.S. Attorney for the Federal District of Colorado.
But also we have the problem of straw purchasers, and personal sales. Personal sales and gun show sales are out there because there's really a loophole there for felons to obtain weapons that way.
And does he know which of these methods allow the most guns into the hands of felons?
It would be a guess.
That's because the federal government, specifically the BATF, that can trace guns, is not allowed by law to compile such information and provide it to the public or to law enforcement. We compiled our information on felons with guns from individual federal court files, like that of Jared Reeves, who cut off a suicide victim's fingers to steal a gun before authorities arrived, and Jeffrey Wilcoxon, who was paying juveniles to steal guns from houses, including automatic weapons, and then selling them. And while James Litke didn't have a previous felony, he stole 21 guns from this dealer in Garfield County and was caught before he could get rid of them.
If you had the resources, you could do a lot more gun cases, could you not?
We could. And so what we focus on is the worst of the worst offenders.
And that is frustrating for local law enforcement because they know targeting felons with guns makes a difference. In 2011, Aurora, Denver, and Lakewood combined forces with federal agents and the U.S. Attorney to gain 85 convictions and take many guns off the street. And it lowered the number of violent crimes.
And there is no question that that action had the effect of disrupting gang activity and making those communities safer.
ATF does a great job, but there aren't enough ATF agents. United States Attorney's Office, when they make these cases, they do a great job, but they have all kinds of other demands on their resources.
Last month, Chief Oates took his plea for more help to Washington.
When I had the meeting with the president a couple of weeks ago in the White House, I said that the number one thing we can do is enforce existing federal gun law around possessions by felons on the street. We all know if you go after the most prolific bad guys and you put them in jail on an offense, you're preventing victimization all around you down the road, the stuff that he would have done.